welcome to the Meditation Conversation, the podcast to support your spiritual revolution. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and you're going to love this episode with Julie Conrad. I was so touched by so many of her incredible stories, and she had my eyes filling with tears over and over. And she gives some tips at the end about how you can work on your own connection with your departed loved ones. And she also has some great resources to help you that she mentions at the end too. Julie Conrad is the founder of Blossom and the author of Conversations in Between with My Mom in the Afterlife. She believes her energy is best spent empowering others to transform her lives with simple tools, tap into their authentic selves, and thrive. Julie is an intuitive healer, a Reiki master teacher, qigong instructor, and an evidential medium. She has honed her talents over the past several decades and enjoys offering people new ways to help shift their perspective, create optimal health, and love their lives through one-on-one sessions and classes. So before we get started, just a quick word about Camuso. Take control of your stress with this necklace that's not only beautiful but powerful. It works within seconds, has zero maintenance, and helps you increase focus, lower your heart rate, sleep better, and reduce anxiety. This is a great product, and you can check out episode 240 where I talked to the founder, Todd Steinberg. That episode is packed with useful insights about how to calm your body and mind. Use promo code KaraGoodwin15 to get 15% off. Check out all the partners of the Meditation Conversation podcast, which you can get through themeditationconversation.com. And now enjoy this episode. Well, welcome, Julie. I'm so excited to be with you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you.
So I want to start by talking about your journey and how you became an evidential medium and healer.
Awesome. It's kind of an interesting journey for me. I had an awesome corporate career and I was doing so well in it. I was in a national account director in sales and loved what I did. It wasn't that I didn't love it. And then as I was going to have children, I could not get pregnant. And I met my mentor at that point, and she gave me a body talk session. And when she put her hands on me, it was like lightning had gone through me. And I literally was like, oh boy, something is happening. And she said, I think you're meant to be a healer.
Now, tell me about body, sorry to interrupt you, but body talk, that sounds familiar. Who is your mentor?
Alma Sandburn.
Okay.
Yeah, body talk is a healing modality, and it's really effective. I've been trained in Acuconnect, which is similar, and then I've created Trilogy, which is similar, all based in kind of Chinese wisdom combined with intuitive knowledge, combined with universal truth, right? All meshed into a modality that you can use to really unlock what's blocked in the body.
Interesting. And so when she did this to you, you felt this like lightning come through? Or
yeah, it was really amazing. So when I was young, I was really sick. I got sick at 16 and almost died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, of mono, of all things, abdominal mono.
Wow.
And it was like my organs all swelled. It was terrible. My eyes, hair, and skin all matched. It was really attractive. I was so jaundiced, so sick. And I just didn't get better. And so I had been dealing with, they had formally diagnosed it as fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue at 16, which is really young.
Oh my God.
And I had been dealing with that for years and had sought all kinds of alternative medicine once I got out on my own and moved to Cincinnati. And I was functioning pretty well, but I would have crashes, right? And so I met her actually through my mother, which I find hilarious. Since my mother did not really believe in the mediumship piece, and Alma's not a medium, but she did help me in my journey tremendously, and she still mentors me to this day. But that lightning strike was just like truth hit me over the head. Literally, I was like, oh, you were right. And that was a Thursday, and on Saturday, I conceived my daughter and had a baby. Yes. Like it was that quick. It was it was like my body unlocked something. And when I had my first child, all the symptoms of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue healed. All the joy from her and her love and my love for her, literally, it changed my cellular DNA and I was healed completely. And I was like, I probably should figure out what's going on and maybe I could pay this forward. You know, like my life was forever better what if I could do that for someone else? And so I started practicing and training, and I became a Reiki master teacher. I took Acunet training. I took other healing modalities, healing touch. I just was like a sponge. I basically say I put myself through spiritual school while I worked in my corporate career, had a baby, had a second baby, and I quit my job. After contemplation for several years, by 36, I had 2 kids. They were 6 and 3. And I just felt this deep, deep longing inside me to help other people in the way that I had been helped, to get my life back, to have energy, to feel vibrant. I was like, what? Okay, what's the worst thing that happens? I have to go back to corporate. My boss would take me back in a heartbeat. I was like, I have to try. And I was married at that point. I'm not anymore. But he was like, just let me know when you're ready to quit. Like, I get it. You have to try it. He was very entrepreneurial minded. And so I blew my number out of the water. And in sales, that means lots of money. I collected the big paycheck. I went on an awesome all included trip to Puerto Rico, and I came home and I quit. I know. And I was like, what? Okay. Like, worst case, I'll go back. Best case, I help people and I love it. And I have this beautiful life that I've dreamed of. And we're in best case. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how did the healing then evolve into mediumship?
Yeah. So it was really interesting. I'm very intuitive, psychic, and I could see angels, guides, all of that in my office. And so one day, a woman kind of appeared through the wall, and I realized she wasn't a guide because what she was saying was about the woman on the table. And I'm like, hmm. And what I've learned about the spirit world is when they want you to do something, they can make you kind of uncomfortable. And so she got kind of pushy in a nice way, but like louder in my ear. I'm very clairaudient. So louder and closer to me. And she's like, please say this to her. Please say it. And I was like, I do not want to do that. Like, who has arguments with another like, spirit in the office? Oh, no, me, I argued. And so I was like, please say it. And so I said what she said, and the woman's eyes flew open and she goes, that is my mother. I was like, yeah, it is your mom. So this started happening.
I've got so many chills.
I know.
Oh my
so
gosh.
over time, like people's loved ones started showing up in my office. One was like a grandma showed up and she said, tell her that I love that she wears my cardigans around the house. She's wearing my cardigan. She misses me so much. And I said, do you wear grandma's cardigan around the house? She said, I do. And I was like, well, she likes that. And the woman was just so like touched by that. You know, like I think it heals people in a different way than just energy work. And energy work is amazing. I love it. I'll never end that practice. But adding the mediumship has been a different level of healing. And now that my parents are both gone, I understand it in a different way. But I finally said to my mentor, so when dead people show up in your like sessions, that's normal, right? And she goes, nope, that's not normal.
She's like, what are you talking about?
It's not normal. And she goes, I mean, I felt helped and I feel guided, but I do not see people's departed loved ones. And I was like, So I thought, well, I should probably get mentored in that, right? Because it is a skill, just like any other skill, and it needs practice. And so I joined Joe Shields' mentoring group. I got into that program and did that with him in New York. And that really expanded my practice and my capabilities. I always equate it to like basketball players, right? Like everybody can dribble a basketball, but the more you practice it, the better it gets, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that I was that, an evidential medium or a medium. I chose to be evidential until I was in my practice. I do remember as a child seeing Jesus in particular, but I grew up in church and I just, as a child, assumed everybody saw him because everyone talks about him all the time. And so once I realized no one else was seeing him, you kind of shut that off. By the age of 7, the veil is thicker between us and the spirit world. And you kind of just, I just shut it off and went on with life. I remember being very afraid as a child because I would see things in my room and my parents were like, that's not there. That's not real, and it
Yeah.
probably was real. And I just
Yeah.
learned to live in the world by, you know, shutting it completely off. And then it just popped back on, which is wonderful.
Wow. What was it like when you saw Jesus? Like, was that in church? Was it at home? Was
Mhm.
it on demand? Like,
You know, it was in my backyard. So I grew up in the country. We had 3 acres. And
were
as
you
a
in Ohio?
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'm in Indiana.
Oh, you are? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're
Mhm.
neighbors. High
Yay, yeah.
five.
Grew up in Northern Ohio in, Mansfield, kind of in the middle of the state,
Uh-huh.
and it's rolling hills and big green trees, and we had this beautiful land. Our neighbors had 5 and 7 acres, so I had the run of all this space, and I remember just running through the backyard, and I would just be singing, and it would be Jesus who would be with me, smiling and playing with me and dancing and just, like, being in his presence. And I remember making my songs up joyfully about Jesus, like, Jesus is my best friend, and, like, you know, I don't know, I was a very joyful child. My mom says there was no happier child than you. I was just joyful, and, I guess I just thought it was I know I thought it was normal because I didn't think anything about it, right?
Mhm.
Um,
And so you were seeing him?
yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and did he look like like, could you tell he was an apparition? Like, he looked different than, like, your parents did? Like, you could see through him or
Yeah, you could see through him. It was kinda like a hologram, you know?
Mm.
Um, but so so much love, you know what I mean? Like, all this
Yeah.
white light around him, just, like, very loving energy,
Yeah.
um, and I always felt so safe. As a
Mm.
child, I think we all wanna feel so safe throughout our lives, but as a child, I just felt so safe with him in the
Mhm.
backyard, like, it was like my own bubble of bliss,
Yeah, and
really.
this would happen frequently?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just in fact, it was cute. I took my children back to meet my neighbor. Um, my parents had sold my house, and when my mother died, I went home back to where I grew up to show my kids my childhood home and took them to meet, Ray, and he said, I used to hide behind trees and just watch you flit through the woods and sing your songs to Jesus." He's like, "You were the sweetest thing." He goes, "And I never wanted to scare you or disturb you." He's like, "But it was just, like, magical watching you like a little fairy in the woods." Isn't that
Oh,
sweet?
that
Yeah.
is so sweet.
I just it was like a wonderful like, that part of my life growing up was just so magical, really. Like
Yes.
yeah.
And so what's just interesting, like, as, like, your
Yeah.
story is kind of fitting into everything, um, it makes me wonder, like, as these gifts came back online, like, do you feel that Jesus is still a mentor? It's just interesting, like, growing up in the church, how the work that you're doing now, like, whether that is or isn't accepted, it kinda goes against the grain of the dogma, but, um, I would love to know if you wanna share.
Yeah, so I still see Jesus now.
Mhm.
Um, when I made the choice to start my practice, I started it with kind of saying, "If you'll lead me to Jesus, like, you are a healer, a prophet, regardless of what you believe about religion, if
Mhm.
you just take Jesus out of religion as a healer, a mentor, an amazing human, so much to learn from him."
Mhm.
And so I would invite him into my sessions and I would see him, his energy in the room. And again, I felt very safe, very comforted. And I got to watch, and I still get to watch a lot of miracles happen.
Mm.
Cysts just disappear out of bodies and they don't need surgery, and shoulders heal and they don't need surgery, and emotions heal and people have depression lift and their anxiety go away. Those are all miracles.
Yeah.
And so I I still love Jesus. I did leave religion behind, and there was a period where I kind of had to let all of it go, kind of like they say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And
Mhm.
and that was a painful time for me, to be quite honest, for several years. I really grappled with that, and then I was able to delineate that I could have just Jesus. And the religion works for so many people. And I love that for them, including my parents. It's just too confining for me. Um,
Yeah.
and so I left that piece, kept Jesus, and still seek his guidance, like, how could I do this? Or could you help me? Or show me a different way to do that, or help this person, or what will work best for them. And I get guidance, I feel like, from him still.
It's so fascinating. So many things are fascinating about all of this in terms of are the parallel, because you're saying a lot of my story in terms of, I didn't grow up in, we weren't like hugely religious, but we did go to church. It was Christian, Episcopalian. And I went through a period where I turned my back on it because I could see the manipulation, and it felt like it was just, I just went the whole other direction where it was like, well, none of it's true because it's all being manipulated. It's a
Yes.
way to control. And so
Yes.
I had my time of just turning my back, and you and I were supposed to record on Monday, and I was sick. And so you graciously agreed to postpone for a couple of days. And I had the most profound meditation this morning, and with Jesus, and I was like feeling so connected. I was feeling things come online. And I realized, because I've just come back from vacation also, and just through that was like, it was great and it was fun, but it feel like I'm still trying to get back into kind of like my flow. And there is like a spiritual element to that as well. And there were elements of spirituality to my vacation, but it's just kind of like I hadn't really felt that connection for a little while. And once it was back, I was like, oh my God, there it is. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And then as I was getting ready this morning, I was like, I wonder if this was part of why I was sick. Like I needed, before I met with Julie, like the thought came that specifically, I've got 3 podcasts today, but it was like specifically you. I was like, I feel like I needed to go through that meditation before I met with Julie.
Oh,
And there was such a Jesus element to it. And then all the things that you're saying, like the corporate job, I was in sales, eventually I was in sales, but like account executive, until I think I was 36 when I left. And I didn't leave right away to go into the work that I'm doing now. We moved abroad, so it's a little bit different there. But there are just a lot of parallels where I'm like, I've definitely got the corporate experience, and definitely made when I went back to working, it was 180, and and anyway, so many things. But now you're talking about, and I also remember not really seeing Jesus the way that you're talking about, but I think through like going to a vacation Bible school of like my babysitters, they were talking about how Jesus is everywhere or God is everywhere or whatever. And I was trying to get my head around that. And I remember being in the back seat of my car being like, well, Jesus is everywhere. Jesus is on the roof. Like he's on the ceiling of this part. Like I'm looking up, like he's right there. And he's over here on my left, and he's over here on my right. How can he be in all those places? But it was like I was trying to feel into, how is Jesus everywhere? And I'm like, and it was like this, it just was. And I still was trying to humanize it, and
first.
but it was this like, oh, okay, there is this loving being that I can't see. Like I couldn't see him the way that you could. But I remember that feeling and holding on to that, and that keep, being with me in different ways until I was like, oh, wait, this is all rubbish. And, then it was a key element in bringing me back. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I love that.
I love the parallels. That's incredible.
It is incredible. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have to throw it all away, and then
Yeah.
sift through what works. I
Right.
always say, if I just read the red words in the New Testament, like Jesus's words, I'm good to go.
I
I'm a
love
red
it.
word reader.
Give me the red words. Oh my gosh. And then I've been seeing lately about like the codes that are in the Bible, like there are, like actual numerical codes with like there are just so many layers and levels and, and there's the surface that's there for people,
Right.
that, and there are the red words if you just want the red words.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah. Well, so you've mentioned about your parents and especially your mom's belief, and I know that when your mom passed away, that was that added a different element to your mediumship in addition to the grief and so forth. But can you talk about the impact of your mom's passing on your work?
Sure. My mom was my best friend, even though we didn't agree on this one thing. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
just kind of a black hole in our relationship that I couldn't really share all the miracles that I saw or the people I brought through and how soothing that could be or healing. So it was a piece of my life that I really longed to share with her, but out of respect, I just didn't because my goal is not to incite any fear in anybody while I'm here, but just honor everybody's belief system and love them where they're at. So when my mom passed, I had asked her, "Will you come?" And she had looked the other way. And
Mm.
I had some fear around it, like, oh man, you know? Um, and I waited. And my grief kind of is like this heavy black cloak is how I describe it, that just kind of closes you off from everything. And I could not connect. I couldn't read for other people. I couldn't read for myself. So not only was I grieving my mom, but I had this loss of connection with my grandparents. I just couldn't find comfort. And I was meditating one day and there she was. And as she came, it was like the sweetest experience in meditation I've ever had still to this moment. Um, she took me to memory when I was 4, and proprioception comes into play with evidential mediumship, where the spirit world will take you to a memory of the loved one with the loved one. And so we were on the beach. I was 4. We were on Sanibel, and I was looking up at her, and we were holding hands. And she looked so angelic with the sun lighting her hair behind her, and her smile was so big, and my heart felt like it might explode, to be honest, out of my chest with so much grief and joy. And then we were sitting on a bench, which it's kind of the cover of my book is kind of us together at the beach, that place of transition. And I wanted her to say, "I get you now," right? Like isn't that what we all want is for the person we love so much to be like, "Oh, I get you." And what she said was so much greater than that. She just was like, "I wanted for you what made me feel happy and safe. And I couldn't imagine that something different than that would be good for you. And now I see that you are so vast. I don't want to put you in a box. And you should just be vast. And I'll be in the vastness with you in everything and everywhere." And that changed me in such a big way. It's not that I don't grieve her because I do, but I do know that she's with me all the time. And so then it's been interesting when I do medium reads, I can feel her with me. And I feel like my practice has actually gotten better because sometimes I'll say to her, like, "Can you help me with that? Like, can we like clarify or can you go get this person that they want to talk to?" And it's really been helpful for me to have her energy. And I think it's made me practice more, right? Because I do want to talk to her and my dad now that he's passed this year. And so I feel like it heightened my practice and also gave me this other layer of understanding for the souls that come to see me, right? They so long to connect to their loved one. And I have this gift that I can be that bridge for them. But I'm not sure that I fully understand that depth of a parent loss of why it's so important that I do now, right? So I think it gave me renewed like level of compassion of the depth of that experience for people and how healing it really can be to hear from your loved one.
That's so beautiful. Now, what was the sort of time length between her passing and when she showed up for you?
It was just shy of a month.
Okay.
So I meditated every day for a month, waiting, hoping for peace, for clarity, for her. And after, it was like 2 days shy of a month, she
Wow.
came. Um, and it was like the biggest relief ever. It was interesting. My dad passed in February and he only waited 2 weeks
Oh,
to come.
really?
Yeah. And I was interesting to me, he was standing, but my mom was behind him, almost lending him her energy to
Oh,
help him come through sooner. And my dad passing was such a shock. He passed away of a massive heart attack while on vacation
oh my
in
God.
Florida, February 24th. And it was, I don't, that shock, I still am grieving a lot. It takes a long time when it's shocking like that. You know, my mom died of cancer and we had lots of time to say goodbye, but
Yeah.
not so much with my dad. And my dad and I were on great terms, but um, I needed to know that he didn't suffer. I wanted to know that he was okay. Like I just needed some comfort, you know?
Yeah.
And so within 2 weeks, the first time actually that I had time to just be by myself because it's very busy
Yeah.
right after someone passes. And so
Yeah.
I literally had taken a nap. And when I was in that lucid state coming out of the nap, there he was. And my
Wow.
dad always called me princess, and it was so sweet. He said, "Hi, princess."
Oh,
And I
oh
was like,
my
"Hi,
God.
daddy." So it
Wow.
was so comforting to me to see him so quickly, and him with my mother is what a joy. That they were
Yeah.
married 50 years and so in love. Still, when they died, he sat and held her hand and said, "Isn't she so beautiful?" as he sobbed. Like, ugh,
Oh my gosh. And
so
how long
emotional.
had your mom been gone by then?
Just shy of 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful. And there was an element of him passing right before you finished your book. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. I had gone to Florida in January to work on the book exclusively just to have a minute. 2 kids, 2 dogs, it's a lot in my world. So I just
Yeah.
went away to try to finish the book with my mom, and, I had gotten through the first edit of it and cleaned a bunch of stuff up and then wrote a few extra chapters that she and I had decided it needed, and, I saw my dad. That was the last time I saw my dad. He'd actually gotten off a cruise ship in Fort Lauderdale where I was staying,
Oh,
and I had breakfast with him, and he had gotten remarried with him and his new wife, and, that was, like, January 18th, and that was the last time I saw him. He was packing up to come home the next day. He was supposed to be at my house for dinner, um, 2 days after he died, and so, I'm so happy that I had that opportunity to have one more cup of coffee with him, one more hug, but I was there to finish the book, and then when he passed, I just had to put it on hold. I just couldn't. My
yeah.
heart was broken, and my brain was not super clear.
Yeah.
It also gave me an opportunity to write an epilogue with him. So my first meeting with him is the epilogue, along with um, kind of his life review and what he was here to work on in life. And um, I don't know, it felt more complete to me, to be honest, to have him have a piece of it since he's on the other side. So
Wow. So tell us about your book, and because you wrote it with your mom,
I
right?
did.
Except for the epilogue, which you wrote with
Yeah.
your dad. But talk about that process and how that worked.
Yeah. So I realized that my mom was healing me with the things that she was telling me about being a human, about our struggle here and how to struggle less, and what heaven was like. Like, hearing all this information was just so soothing to me. Like, I had so much more peace and comfort. And she said, we should write this down. I said, we should write it down. So she said, I said, well, we should write a book. I've always wanted to write a book. And she said, yeah, let's write a book. And I said, Mom, I don't even know what questions to ask you. She said, get a pen. And it
Oh
was
my
so funny.
gosh.
So I got a pen and I wrote down, I would say, 23 questions
Oh my
out of
gosh.
the ones that I asked her. And she
And
said,
so
then we'll just work through them.
is this like in meditation? Are you seeing her as a hologram like you saw Jesus? Like what is it like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I usually just sit down and I quiet my mind like you would in meditation. And because am trained to do that, you know, like you with meditation, you can drop into that space quickly. I always say the same thing: come to me, be with me, sit with me, open up all my senses so that I might experience you. And then they're just there. It's like walking through a door. And so then she's just there. And I used to always just see her. Now I feel her. It looks like golden light to me. It feels warm. Often I feel sensation on my cheeks because she used to always hold my cheeks and she would touch her forehead to me and she would say, "My dearest darling daughter, dying would be so much easier if I didn't love you so much." And so that feeling of just being loved so deeply wraps around you like a blankie, basically. And I know she's there. And I can hear her and feel her. And sometimes I see her face, but most of the time I don't need to use the clairvoyance. I know her, right? You would know if your mom walked in the room, you just know their energy. It's the same.
Yeah.
And so I would sit like that and I started by writing. Like I would listen to her and then I would write it down. And then I would listen and then I would write it down. And that was kind of a slow and arduous process because then I'd have to go back and try to translate what I had written very quickly into typing it. And she goes, I taught you to type. She was a business teacher. She goes, I taught you to type. Why don't you just close your eyes and try typing while we talk?
She's so practical.
It's so practical.
I love it.
And her advice is so practical. So that's how we wrote the book. I would literally just sit, ask her the question, and type between us and just hit enter between each kind of thing, you know? And then it obviously took a lot of editing and cleaning up and stuff, but that's how we wrote it. Just, I would sit down and ask her one question and I would type her answer and our conversation down.
Wow. That is so cool.
Thank you.
I
It was
love
a
it.
fun process. Labor of love for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. But I mean, what a gift. What a huge gift for you to still have such a strong connection with your parents
It really is.
when they've passed. And then especially with the work that you're doing, because like it was a mutual friend of ours, Stephanie, who put us in touch with each other, and she's received so much from you, in turn. She's like, you've got to interview the viewer. She's just amazing. And so the help that you give other people going through grief, through that connection and this, like you've said, like the strength, the way that it strengthened your abilities through that is just, it seems very divine.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels very inspired.
Yeah.
And like turning something that is painful into something that is contributing, is good for the whole and helps other people. Because I think in our grief, if we can use it in service and compassion to others, it lessens the grief.
Yes, absolutely. So what are some of the key things that your mom has shared with you about the afterlife that have touched you so much?
Um, well, she met Jesus, which really I just love so much. She went to see him very quickly and learns from him and sits with his energy. His energy is so big, she says, that it's like he makes a warm aura of his energy that people sit in. And I think that's such like a lovely thought that we could just sit in his energy. And she said she loves him so much. She admires him even more now and would probably choose another life following him, which I found fascinating.
Well, I
So
imagine she didn't believe in reincarnation.
oh,
Yeah.
no.
So that in and of itself
I
says a
know.
lot.
I
Yeah.
know. Yes, it was always, you die and you go to heaven or hell. And I remember saying once to her, I go, Mom, there is no hell. And she's like, do not say that. And I was like, okay. I'll say people are creating hell here. They just don't know it,
Yeah.
But that was really sweet. I loved her description of being reunited with family and friends and how wonderful that feels. And to me, it looked like I wrote a million fireflies intermixing together as their energy reunited. It was just so beautiful. Um, she shared dying, she suffered because she had resistance to it. And I think a lot of us suffer because we have resistance in life. And once she let go of that, she says she was reunited with bliss. And I love that word. Like I have always said, I feel like I create my own bubble of bliss. And the biggest piece of advice she has is you are creating heaven on earth. Like your whole job is to make earthly experience as close to your heavenly experience as possible. And so when I am in my bubble of bliss, as I call it, I'm like, I am experiencing heaven right now. And I think that's such a lovely thought because being raised Christian and super fundamental, right? Super strict, it was that this was almost like a horrible holding zone, like trials and tribulations until you get to heaven where it's going to be good. And I remember people always saying, I just can't wait to die and go be with Jesus in heaven. And I'm thinking, no, wait,
Yeah.
I'm with Jesus right now. And this could be so good. And I think what she has shared with me has helped me realize the beauty of being human. Yes, there's suffering. Yes, there are trials. Yes, there is stuff we don't understand. But we really are born to be creators. Like, if we are designed after the great creator, if you believe in a source energy that is creating, and we are made like that, then our whole goal with being human is to create. And so the more I lean into that thought that she's given me of you are creating, whether you create heaven or hell here is up to you. Wow, has my life gotten better with just recognizing, I'm heaping on problems to myself by revving up my brain. I could just take a deep breath and be like, this one thing is not so great. All these other things are really great. Right. And that is heaven. It's heaven when you have these luxurious mornings, right? Like this morning, having a cup of coffee and journaling and meditating and being on a podcast with you. It's heavenly. It's so delightful. And I think what she shared with me makes me realize our own capabilities as a human that we've somehow forfeited. Like somehow we forgot. Well, I mean, we agree to forget when we incarnate, but really forgot that we are so powerful. That has been like a magical shift in my mind.
Wow, that's really powerful. And again, just really parallel with me. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. Um, do you have any tips on how listeners can develop this within themselves or connect with their loved ones?
Yes, I do. I'm glad you asked. I asked my mom this in the book, and she says that the human mind is too busy and it's in chaos a lot. And so if we're never quiet, they can't reach us. And so I would say there's two things. One, get quiet. Like through meditation, through a practice, through noticing what's around you in nature, being really present. Our mind likes to worry about the past and ruminate, and it likes to project into the future all the bad things that could happen. And right now, if we can get present, that is where they can get to us. So if we quiet the mind and are open to listening to them, to hearing, to guidance, and are seeking that, asking them, then it opens up the ability to connect. You don't have to, I truly believe you don't have to be a medium to connect to your loved ones. I believe mediums connect other people with their loved ones, but that we all have the right and the capabilities to connect with our person because we still have a love cord to them, right? We are bonded to them, and that doesn't disappear. I still love my mom just as much as I did when she was here. So to me, it's like we follow that love to get to our person as the bridge. But if you're too busy, it's really hard to hear them if your mind is never quiet. And she said, we live in a society that always has an AirPod in, always has the music going, always is listening to something, always is like talking to someone because we don't want to be alone. But if we would pause and be alone, we realize we're not alone.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. So that has really helped a lot of my clients get quieter, listen. I do offer a workshop called the Connection Workshop. And I have a guided meditation that I've had great success with, with people quieting the mind with some guided visualization, right? And meeting a loved one. In fact, my sweet daughter, who's 13, misses her grandparents so deeply. And she's done it. And she's met both of them in that quiet space. And I always know when it works because tears are streaming down her cheeks. And
Wow.
she had met my dad. She was taking the class while I was teaching it. She had met my dad in the meditation. And then when we were in Sedona launching my book on the 2nd, the one night my parents had said, will you just go to Bell Rock and sit at the base of Bell Rock in that energy vortex? My knee was hurting really bad. They're like, your knee will heal. And Elise, my youngest daughter, needs to connect. And I was like, okay. So we went there and I just did the little guided meditation and got her in. And I look over and the tears are streaming. My knee healed completely. She's crying. And she's like, Nana was there. I was with Nana finally. And that just,
Oh, so many chills.
so even children can do it. You know, like it really is just finding that space. I find it easy in nature. It's personal though, right? But where do you feel connected to your person? Can you get quiet? Could you hold something that's theirs, right? Like I wear my mom's diamonds and their wedding bands. Like I feel them with me. You know, could you hold something that was theirs and just quiet your mind and visualize them and let them come? They will. They love you so much. Like we're really not separate. They're just, it's literally like they're right here. You know what I mean? Like I always thought of heaven so far off. It's literally right here.
Wow. That's
So-
incredible. I love that she wanted you to go to Bell Rock because I think Bell Rock is very galactic. So I'm like, I think your mom's just full of surprises.
Yes. Yes. And it was like a magical experience, really. I mean, she told me what time to be there. She's like, can you go there at 5:30 as the sun starts to set? And I want you to just, you won't have to climb up very far. You'll know when you get there. There's a ledge to your right. Sure enough.
Oh my God.
I know. She's like, take a right at the fork, climb up, and you'll know when you hit the ledge. And we did. And Elise is like, this has to be it. I'm like, of course, this is it.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that
That's
sweet?
incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But they do want to connect, but our brains just tend to block it out with all the noise. So
yeah.
I really would encourage people to, one, invite them, right? And two, get quiet and intentional about it.
Yeah.
And you may not see like I do. It may be like that feeling or sensation down the back of your neck. It may be that you smell them, right? I often smell, you know, the other night I smelled cigar smoke. I could not find a cigar anywhere. There was no one smoking one. And it was my dad, you know, because he loved to smoke a cigar out on the patio, right? It could be any of those senses. One day I was doing a meeting read and I had in my mouth, I tasted cinnamon red hots. I was like, this person loved cinnamon red hots. And the woman goes, I know exactly who that is. He was never without cinnamon red hots in his mouth.
That's so funny.
So, you know, I think we don't look for all of our senses, open them all up. And maybe when you're sitting in that quiet and you're really present, go through your senses. What do I hear?
Now I just taste the cinnamon red hot.
Our suggestion.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes. But I think, you know, you don't know which of your clairs, unless you've studied that, is most open. So it could be that you're clairvoyant or clairolfactance, or that you have clear taste or clear cognizance where you just know it beyond a doubt, or clairaudient, right? Clairsentient where you feel. So I would encourage people to go through their physical senses at the next level with their eyes closed.
I love that. Oh my gosh, this has been so expansive and heart-opening. Julie, please tell everybody how they can connect with you, the name of your book, where they can get it, your workshop, all of the good stuff.
Oh, thank you, Kara. The name of my book is Conversations in Between with My Mom in the Afterlife. You can buy it on Amazon or Bookshop. And my website is begintoblossom.com. So you can find all my things on there. The Connection Workshop, there's a link to it under the book on the book page. So if you want to take that, it's half price right now, which is kind of nice for people to get started. And I teach classes on intuition, which always helps people connect more deeply, right? Because it's the same, that intuitive sense. It's just taking that to the next level. So I teach a lot of classes on intuition that seems to help people be able to connect to their loved ones and their own guidance, right? Because that's really how we need to lean into creating. So.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. What a beautiful discussion. It's just been such a joy to be with. It's been blissful.
Yay. Thank you for having me. It has been blissful. You are a delight to speak with. So thank you for
Oh,
having me on.
thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Meditation Conversation. I'd be so grateful if you would share this episode with someone in your life who would appreciate it. Your sharing helps build momentum and make high vibrational content such as this more accessible and easier to find. I'd also be so grateful for you to subscribe to this content. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to the next meditation conversation.